Hello and welcome to today's content of Viktora Winter since she has been announced, and I'll be talking more specifically about her PvP unit analysis and what she's good and bad at and how to use her basically. Also, since not all the information has been translated as of yet on the War Division's calc website, please bear with the names. I'll use more kind of like general terms for them just so it's like a better understanding. Also, please bear with me as since her EX is not currently out, we cannot really base this video mostly on her EX. I will talk about some of her EX abilities and skills she gets, but since they are not going to be brought with her until her actual EX comes out at a later time, just keep that in mind. So for Viktora Winter's main job takeaways pre-EX, she is a sniper just like Nivlu. So similarly, they have the skills and abilities Dispel Spread, Slow Arrow, and Barrier Break Arrow. For her LB or her Limit Break, as you see there's no name next to it because it was in Japanese. I omitted it for that reason. It has a 67% base chance of inflicting blind, and if your Limit Break is max leveled at level 20, it has up to a 50% reduced accuracy. Potency. So like, it will straight up like make some units have like 50% accuracy or even lower. Like they will have a hard time hitting your units. And it also gives her hate down for just a little bit. Only 2 means if she gets 1 attack off after her LB, then it will revert back to 0 and then she can be targeted again. Or main targeted again, I should say. Lastly, for her EX only ability, I'm not sure what that says in Japanese, so I can't really say too much about it. I'll just say it's Barrage because it acts basically the same, but it does have a decreased attack and magic down for 3 turns, and the range is very similar also to Barrage. So yeah, those are very, very like I said, EX. She is a very strong unit as EX, but without her EX, she's alright. She's basically kind of like Nivlu, but a water type in that sense. So moving on to her sub-job takeaways, for Sniper specifically, what I would say is kind of like relevant would be Arm Shot, because Disable is always good to have if the opponent can be disabled, and Target Share. Unfortunately, Siren Raid just ended, so Target Share won't be as useful there, but if there were similar raids that had like missile resistance like weakness for raids, then Target Share would definitely help in bringing Viktora there. For her next sub job would be Dual Gunner, specifically saying she didn't have Quad Shot unfortunately, so I only include Dual Trigger here because Dual Trigger is a very high damage multiplier and it's her only multi-hitting ability for possible chains. Additionally, she has Smoke Screen, which is always nice and useful because it has the evasion rate and the defense. They're not guaranteeing anything except for the defense, which is also something to consider because I believe Viktora has a base of 4 or 6 defense. I'd have to check in a different slide, but yeah, she has some defense, not 0 at least, so it can help her a little bit. Most importantly in my opinion would be the Paladin subjob. However, Sentinel is always good, so like if you're expecting to get hit, using Sentinel before that means you will get that, you will survive pretty much almost, and you'll probably like take your attack like right after. So yeah. Sailing Wall, in my opinion, the most important skill here and ability is reducing the damage taken by 50% for 3 times for herself. If the enemy does not have a barrier break and they're not using magic specifically, any physical attacker will have a very hard time one-shotting Viktora. Like Runestern Hazard Crusher, sorry, Sailing Wall. Kane's Dragon Raid, sorry, Sailing Wall. It's like if they do not have a barrier break on her, she will have a high chance of surviving physical damage. Lastly, I don't know why I include this, but I mean, I guess for flexibility and slash type damage, she does have Taunting Blade, she does have Hate Generation. If you wanted to go that route, I would not really recommend it in my opinion, but she does have access to it. Here we are at the resistances and the passives for Viktora Winter. So for resistances to the damage types, she has negative 15% strike, negative 10 to lightning because she's water type, and negative 5 to magic. Overall, I think her resistances are fine. Her positives are 5% missile and 5% slash and 20% piercing. Keep in mind, most of her positive resistances are tied to physical damage, mostly. That means with Saintly Wall, she has a much better time of surviving compared to her other counterparts, such as like Nivlu or any of the other gunners like Frederica, and Lucia, and such like that. Saintly Wall is pretty big like usage for her, even like if she does not have as high resistances compared to them. So for the statuses, she is 50% resistant to slow and sleep, which are pretty good. Unfortunately, sleep is not too important since we haven't really seen it really used almost ever, and we don't have a limit break that prioritizes that yet. We'll have to see in the future. 10% disable resistance is always good because it helps, but it's not enough to nullify like a weaker base chance of 25%, but 10% does help. It's in favor of you. For her master ability, she has the typical mono water, which is the HP 10% for all water allies and the water attack 15 for all water allies. For her own self though, she does get a unique, or kind of first time seeing it for units coming out, is the AP cost of negative 20% for herself. So that's pretty cool to have. So from here, she has the move 3, jump 2. This definitely helps her in positioning the jump 2 mostly, so she can get more height to get her sniper abilities off, and also traverse the terrain much better. For her passive specifically, and why she is quote-unquote more used than Niv Lu in the JP meta, is going to be tune-up. Tune-up specifically gives her up to 40% defense penetration. It's very nice to have defense penetration. Like Niv Lu is capped at the 20% innately. With tune-up, Viktora does have the upper hand there. She also has the sniper mastery and the long range, so it helps her for her damage and her range. And the more quote-unquote niche and flex, I would argue, is going to be the missile master and the Holy Knight's protection. Keep in mind, as much as Viktora does have Saintly Wall and the Paladin sub, the Holy Knight's protection there and trying to go like a tank build on her will not really do her much justice in the end, in my opinion. Maybe you do need more HP and defense on her, but like I said, for her physical damage, she does have Saintly Wall. If they don't have a barrier break, it's not too much of a worry for her taking damage. Specifically for EX, her long range passive turns from 1 range to 2 range, which is pretty significant because range is kind of important for snipers and gunners and missile users in general, because having the extra range allows you to basically get the upper hand in priority of attacks and abilities. For her reaction abilities, she has the counter smoke from the dual gunners. No. Counter smoke is actually from sniper. Sorry, my bad. So counter smoke is actually kind of cool also because it decreases the accuracy. It's not like Venera and Ruin Stern's like assassin, where if you get hit, you have a chance of getting more evasion from their assassin reaction. This one is more, it decreases the accuracy of the target instead, which is in my opinion much better compared to the other ones. Predictive fire is from dual gunner specifically. Sorry, I meant dual gunner for predictive fire, not counter smoke, which is nice to have. Paladin's guard is from, as you can tell, Paladin. It's specifically for physical damage. Like I said, you don't really have to worry too much about physical damage unless they have a barrier break. In my honest opinion, I do not think that's the way to go. Personally, I would use either predictive fire or counter smoke. Counter smoke if you want to kind of play around with RNG, and predictive fire kind of more for like last second or 1v1 situations where you just need that extra little bit of damage out. So now let's talk about Viktora Winter's strength and her weaknesses. So for strength, she does have access to the longer range passive. Unfortunately, without her EX, it's not 2 range, it'll only be 1 range. She has access to the 40% innate defense penetration with tune-up passive. She does have potential though for 100% defense penetration. She cannot use and does not need Oldora's Apron. This is kind of big in defense, like when people are stacking defense only and they don't have resistances. She has very competitive speed. She has a base of 61 agility before her passive of tune-up, which is very nice to have. She has a base of 4 defense, like I said previously, it was either 4 or 6. 4 is not as high as 6, but I mean, it's better than 0. She does have 0 spirit, so she will take magic damage. The mono water buffs also help for more damage and health. It'll definitely help later on once we have the Final Fantasy X collaboration when we have Titus. She's very hard to inflict slow and sleep on. She has very good pierce resistance and has access to Saintly Wall, as I said before. Melee users will have a hard time killing her in one go without a barrier break. And pierce units, dragoons in general, will have a hard time killing her in one go as well, period. Even if she has his Saintly Wall or not, If she is built correctly and well, she can survive. Her limit break has a high chance to land her the blind status ailment, which can significantly reduce the enemy accuracy, and this is kind of big, especially when we have the evasion meta, as well as if she's able to land it and you have an evasion team and she's just kind of there for her limit break, then you have a extremely highly weighted and favored chance to win that. Basically, they will struggle without like 100% guaranteed hits. Since she has 3 move and 2 jump, it can help to get her move around the map. Not super high on the move and the jump, but it's definitely better than 3 move 1 jump. She can be decently physically tanky, like I said, with her Saintly Wall, and she has a little bit of base defense. It'll help a little bit, not too much. If she wanted to, she could get physically tanky with the Holy Knight passive from the Paladin, but yeah, like I said, Saintly Wall, like it allows her to tank a lot more damage from physical hits. Also, a decrease in her AP consumption for her master ability helps in much longer and prolonged fights. It does not mean that she can't or will not need bells. The 20% in a longer team fight, like over I guess 10, 15 turns, I would like kind of like throw out there. She would have a higher chance of being able to put out abilities rather than auto attacking like the rest of like other similar units like Nivlu. So yeah, the decrease in AP consumption is good. I would not say it's OP, but I will say it's useful to have. For weaknesses though, she is weak to magic and strike type attacks, although strike attack types, like I said earlier, are not long range. If they had a sub job on it, like for Monk, like a Surge Strike or something, it would mean probably almost instant death, like by it. If she does not have Saintly Wall, she is probably dead. Like, does not matter what you build, like negative 15% without being able to go out of your way of raising it, she will take heavy damage from that. As we know, she's weak to lightning units because she is water type. Even with magic resistance, for example, even a Sakura's Thunder's Light, because it's lightning element, will deal significant damage without heavy mitigation. I think even if you did maybe put like a Smart Coat on or a Fides Lacerna, I think she will still die in 1 hit. However, if you had like Fenrir Vision card and Esper to boost up her magic attack resistance, she could survive, but like I said, if you go that far, then it won't. You're opening yourself up to too many other things, and those are kind of like cherry picking situations. Even Sakura is like using her Thunder's Light is more of an example. Unfortunately for Viktora, as much as she has up to a potential 100% defense penetration, she does not have many damage modifiers, and she trades it, like I said, for the defense penetration. That means single target, AoE resistance, and missile resistance are going to be huge factors in preventing Viktora from doing damage. She also has no guaranteed hit abilities. That means evasion team comps can be viable against her still. She still can be stopped, disabled, blinded, herself ironically, and confused without proper mitigation. I think this is kind of funny because her limit break is to blind, and if there was a mirror matchup, whoever gets the LB off first and hits and lands the blind, they're pretty much going to win that mirror match ironically. But yeah. She's limited to cloth armor type, so there's no defensive armor. No defensive, sorry. I meant she doesn't have access to like platinum armor for like the highest HP in the game. Some future armor like the Brigadine for the AoE res, stuff like that. She'll be more limited to like Smart Robe, Platinum Robe, the Lacerna, stuff like that. So despite, like I said, her AP consumption master ability, she is still very greedy for AP like Nivlu, because that's what snipers are. They're kind of greedy for their abilities, but they do have very high usability. Also, ironically, as much as she is coming out, without her EX, she has she has less utility and usefulness compared to Nivlu in an overall team basis. And I say that because her LB does not lower defense for her teammates. She doesn't have any elemental or damage type imperils, and her abilities are all kind of for herself only. Outside of like maybe target share, like I said earlier, from her sub job, she doesn't have stuff like Nivlu. Nivlu has like haste, even quicken, stuff like that, and her LB lowers defense. So for now, without the EX, I would say Viktora is slightly less. She has less utility than Nivlu by like a good amount. So for the equipment, what she should use, for the bows, we have the killer bow out that does increase the missile attack, But we are also on her release are getting the platinum bow, which is 20% defense penetration. So it's arguable which one's better in like general sense. In my opinion and my usage that I'll probably build her, I think both are just fine. I will probably preferably, if I do not use the Tide Ring, I will probably use the Killer Bow for the extra missile attack 15%. Well, not percent, but like 15 modifier. However, if I use the Tide Ring for that extra attack bonus, the stat, I would probably use the Platinum Bow instead, just to make sure I get more guaranteed damage with the defense penetration. Like I said, for the cloth armor type, she has the Smart Robe, Platinum Robe, the Fittest Lucerna. She can't really deviate too much from that because she's limited to cloth. For accessories, as usual, the bells, ribbon, Ayaka's TMR, and the Elf's Cloak now that's come out. They're all very good and useful. I would probably recommend and argue that she will probably need bells a majority of the time. She can use the Saintly Wall to gain AP and have that her master ability kind of try to carry, but don't expect too much like ability usage out of her because she needs AP generation to even spend like abilities and make use of that AP cost reduction in the first place. So moving on, as her role as a unit and viability in the current meta of February 17th, 2021 when she is released, I would say she only technically has one role on this map specifically, and I'd argue probably almost all maps, is going to be DPS. Like I said earlier, she's capable of easily maintaining 60 to 100% defense penetration, which is huge, especially once we have like units like UR-Mont who like stacking defense to a very high amount. Without resistance, that defense means nothing like against Viktora specifically. She also has much higher attack stats compared to Nivlu. I believe it was a good amount. Like she's in the 300s while Nivlu was around the high 200s. But yeah, she has much more physical damage compared to Nivlu. Nivlu does though have more speed, but like I said, looking at the attack stats, her Saintly Wall, like I said earlier, allows a lot of leeway basically from taking physical hits. If Frederica, Nivlu, Lucia, like Luartha were to take a physical hit, there is a high chance they're probably dead in one go unless reflex procs. But Saintly Wall is kind of like a guarantee. There's no variance there. It is either they have a barrier break or they're hitting that Saintly Wall. Also, like I said, without the EX as of right now, unfortunately, Nivlu does have higher value in terms of utility. Also, ironically, Nivlu does counter Winter Viktora because of the elemental change, and she only has 5% missile resistance. So if you don't use Plat Rope, you probably might get one shot by Nivlu unless you have that Saintly Wall up, like I said. Her long range also allows her to stay out of trouble more often. That means like a front line would be very useful in keeping her safe and alive. So here we are to fight as Viktora and using her in compositions. So fighting as her, she has long range and insanely high defense penetration. With a proper front line, she'll be able to melt opponents if they do not have missile resistance or if they do not have mitigation against her. Even if they do have a Saintly Wall or a physical barrier, she does have the barrier break ability, so she can use that. With her mono water team master ability, if you pair her with other water units such as like Ildria or Glaciella or like Miranda, they can all capitalize on the damage and the HP gain, so it's nice to think about that type of combo. Since Viktora also has long range abilities, it's best to give her a frontline in my opinion, like a tank, or to pair her with other snipers and missile users so they can all stay back together and just chain. It would depend on how you want to build up your team comp, but in generic sense, having a frontline would be more safer for her in general. So fighting against Viktora, because she will be relevant and in the meta for a long time, especially once EX and her EX is out, she will definitely be very, very good. So like I said earlier, Viktora is innately weak to strike and magic type attacks. Without mitigation, she'll suffer great damage. Strike, not too worried about it currently, only because there's only physical types and she has Saintly Wall. If we were to get the Earth Scholar Magic Girl that has the strike type attack magic damage, I'm pretty sure Viktora just dies in one shot. Like there is no saving her ever from that hit, but they have to be in range. So be wary of bringing strike units, as I just talked about, because unless you specifically have a setup to get to her in time with the strike unit or have missile resistance, she will lay down her missile attacks and whittle you down eventually. And it's not a 1v1 type of game. There is team compositions. There will be other team members that can help you do this, but they can also help kill you faster. It depends. Lightning units are extremely potent against her. Even Sakura's lightning magic will easily kill Viktora. Ironically, she is a new sniper and she has a very good kit. Nivlu and Frederica can make quick work of her very easily. Since Viktora also has no guaranteed hit abilities, she can suffer greatly against evasion teams. It's important to think about that because right now in the current Guild Wars map I showed earlier in the slide before, evasion is very strong here. So there is something to think about. If you do not build accuracy on her team, then she will miss a majority of the time. If Viktora faces against like missile resistance enemies, missile resistant enemies, she has nothing to do since her kit, like I said, revolves insanely around her defense penetration, which does not penetrate the missile resistance, single target, and AoE resistance. This means that like if people were to use Engelbert or Warrior Light and stack as much missile resistance as possible, Viktora will do almost no damage. She'll literally tickle them with her arrows. It'll just like flop off their armor basically. Like, it's important to know, as much as defense penetration is insanely important and good to have, resistances are also pretty key. And since she does not have a missile imperil, she has to heavily consider her options basically in attacking. If you hit a tank that is built for missile resistance, doesn't matter how much defense they have, like she will struggle to kill them. So for the units for both sides, if you fight as Viktora, I'd arguably say the first 6 units that came to mind would be like Warrior Light, Winter Venera, and Agrius as your front lines. Like maybe Miranda too, but Miranda hasn't really been used too often. But yeah, those 3 came to mind. I mean those 4, because they are a good front line. They also all have some type of form of hate generation, so it's nice to have a front line. To pair her with the water type, until we get more water types, as of right now, it will probably Glaciella and Ildria making the most use of it. And fighting against Viktora, if you're trying to aim to counter Viktora, I would suggest using Frederica or Nivlu as the number 1 like usages. They have very good range. I think they have one more range more than Winter Viktora until she gets her EX for that extra range. But until then, these 2 will outrange her and they will kill her because of the elemental advantage. I put Venera there specifically to show the evasion teams, as well as specifically Venera has very good missile resistance, so her defense penetration does nothing to Venera, unfortunately. Sid also has the innate 10% missile resistance. It's not super big, but the elemental resistance and just him as a unit in general against her specifically will make him kind of hard to deal with. Sakura and Halloween Leela, while they both can die to Viktora, they can both also potentially one-shot Viktora. The reason why I say that is, as I said before for Sakura, Thunder's Light will kill her in one shot. I do not doubt it ever unless like you mitigate against it. Halloween Leela has very high range. She can probably hit with the Arioga like level 3/4 or a Holy and maybe one-shot Viktora if she's not using a Smart Rope, but yeah, they can do heavy damage to each other, so it's something to think about. And we arrived to the end of the video. As always, if you liked my unit analysis video, please leave a like and subscribe. And until the next video, have fun if you decide to pull for Viktora, and peace out.